to the Companion Insight on this Monday night, where we're talking business. We're asking our panel if they think the UK tax system is unjust. And we've heard many arguments of why it's fair and not fair. It is what it is. We have to deal with that. But what is an alternative? That's what I want to get to now. The Institute of Economic Affairs wants income tax set at a flat rate of 15%, VAT to drop to 12.5%, and many other taxes to be abolished. They say they want 5, including fuel duty, land value tax, and tax on rental income. That's what they're saying. I can already see heads are shaking to my left. Judge, you don't agree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with this, this flat rate approach or something, because the thing is, think about it. We have 4, 5, 6 major taxes, for example, income tax, we have national insurance, then we talk about the VAT, then we have corporate tax, we have stamp duty, and so on. And each and every tax has their own pros and cons, plus and minuses, right? I do agree that in taxation system in UK, we have quite a lot of complexity. And from the complexity, people are not able to see if the government collect taxes, where and how and in what manner they spend those taxes which get collected, and on what things and on what percentages. For example, it's a very common belief, right, that we collect the income tax and it is used towards the benefit systems. That's a common belief with a common man, but that's not the case. We collect the income tax, government collect the income, but spend over the so many allocated heads, for example, hospitals, schools, and those kind of spendings are irrespective of how rich or how poor you are. If your child goes to a early school, you will get the lunch anyway, right? If you go to the NHS, they don't care about either you're rich or poor, you will get the same sort of services. So that's very important to see that the overall system.
But you're not in favour of flat rate.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's the ideal situation?
See, we cannot call a system of income tax, like he's saying, as very fair, because the way money is spent is fair. Like if you take away 45% of income, if I'm a low wage earner in this country, you're taking away 45% of my income. Either high wage earner, you're taking only 35% of his income. Yeah. How it is spent is a different issue altogether. That's depends upon the government, the politics, the history, and all that. But I think in this country, what's happening now is we've got, over a period of time, kings, queens, dukes, duchess, and all that stuff. And they own the land, they own the property, heavy in billions, in fact. Like said, Duke somewhere in the north owns about 116,000 acres of land. I think, like Thomas Piketty said, a French economist, we should tax people here in UK on assets, not on income, because that's where we are going wrong in this country.
So that's a radical shift.
It's a radical shift, and he's promoted it only about 3 years back. Big tome to read, but it's a very useful one. 700 pages.
Fancy that as a change to
Look,
the current system?
I don't mind whatever the way government wants to tax, as long as it's fair, equitable, and the people can, the society can benefit. Now, there's one side, if you go for lower taxes, like you have society in Singapore, you have low taxes, but that society is sink or swim society. There's no support for it. So, for example, if we are paying taxes, whatever the system is, there are some people like mothers with young children, they cannot work. We need to assist them. There's some artists who don't work, but they enrich us. They give us more wealth, artistical wealth they give us. So we need to support.
Can I ask you about this flat rate, though? Do you agree with what the Institute of Economic Affairs says? Just have this income tax set at a flat rate of 15%, VAT to 12.5%?
I have not done the numbers, but we have a certain cost in our country. We have certain costs. 2% of GDP goes to our defence. Then we have NHS to spend, and we have welfare system to look after. Now, we need certain amount of money. Now, whether that 15% we pay for
the
it,
Institute of Economic Affairs has done it.
If they've done it, great. I'm happy for it.
Christian, what do you think? Do you agree with a flat rate? What change would you like to see? Because you already don't think that the current system is fair, so what would make it fairer?
Yeah, I think basically 15% will not be that much enough, because I don't think that will be fair tax as well, because we have already national insurance, which is the additional tax, and tax system again, and there are a lot of other taxes, because it has to be distributed and it has to be fund all the expenditures as well. That's why what is they're proposing will not be, I think, sufficient to as per the current budget. Yeah. However, like they can improve the burden of the tax from the poor society to rich society. Many states who are in central London, who have acres of land, who have big properties, they don't pay neither capital gain tax, neither the inheritance tax. Yeah, millions and millions pound is saved. Only those people who have to pay 20,000 or 50,000, they will pay inheritance tax, or 100,000, they will pay inheritance tax or capital gain tax. When it reaches to million or half a million or 2 million, then they start shifting all the assets to the offshore. Yeah.
We heard about Singapore.
Yeah.
Is there, and you guys are business minds, is there anywhere else in the world that we can learn from? Is there anyone doing it better? I mean, we mentioned France, is, of course, has a higher, considerably higher tax rate, but then we talked about the benefits that they perhaps get in social care, for example, and those sorts of things. The healthcare is better than here, regarded as better than here. Where can we learn from in the world, Prabhakar? Is there anywhere that you think...
Bulgaria, for example.
Okay.
15% flat rate of taxation. You have a higher threshold above which everybody pays 15%. The USSR always believed in a flat rate of taxation. If you want people to pay tax, just like what they say about the Laffert's curve, you want people to pay tax, it should be simple to understand. Now, the tax system is so, like I said, thousands and thousands of pages, so phenomenally complicated that you always require an accountant to fill up your form. I'm not joking about this. I have nothing against accountants.
You're right.
All accountants have to prosper. So, another problem that we have in this government is the government is always after what they call as people who are dodging benefits. We have 3,000 people in the government, HMRC, who are running after so-called tax dodgers. How many people do you have against, like you said, big companies? Just 350 people. Okay. Now HSBC, the leaked out names and all that. Somebody in HSBC, Falciani, leaked out names and all that to all over the world, even in this country. They gave 3,500 names. How many did our government prosecute? Just one guy.
So for you, it's very much a case that the government is there to support big corporations, and if that's at the expense of the average person, then
exactly correct. Yeah.
But I would say that the flat rate would not work. So if somebody's earning only £30,000 a year and you're paying flat rate of 15%, and then somebody else earning £1 million, and they're still paying 15%, they're keeping a bigger chunk. So I personally believe the people who earn more should be asked to pay a little bit more for the fairness of the society, and so flat rate will not work. So if somebody earns £1 million, only paying 15%, and somebody paying 30,000 and 15%,
but of course, under the current system, people that earn more, of course, do pay more. And then, but Krishna mentioned this early on.
So Krishna's agreeing with me. So that means he agrees. It's fair.
Well, you don't have to disagree on everything. Although I'm sure we'll find something. But you mentioned the poorest 10% of UK citizens pay 43.5% of their income in taxes. That is 10% more than the rest of the population who pay 32.7% of their income in taxes. So something is skewed very much at the moment against the poorest people in this country, and yet you two are arguing that the system is fair.
Not really. I think the people who are earning more are paying more taxes.
They're paying more taxes, but for the poorest, in this sense, it's more of their income that's going in that.
In terms of their the total or how much they earn. And because those persons who are poor, like they have to only we're not talking about only income tax, we're talking about council tax.
And on council tax, I'm just going to come in, the poorest 10% are paying 7.1%. Chris, let me just make this point. The poorest 10% paying 7.1% of their income in council tax, whilst the richest 10% pay only 1.5% of their income in council tax. So it isn't fair at the moment, is it?
Well, the council tax, it's probably not fair. But then, on the other hand, then you have the tax on businesses and so the people who are earning more are generally the business people who are wealth creators. So they're not only paying tax on their income, so they're also paying. So, for example, I, as a businessman, I'm paying for all my employees. Obviously, the rate which is increasing. I'm paying for their pensions. I'm also paying the levy on. So when you do the apprenticeship levy to educate and help the development of apprenticeship. Then I'm paying obviously national insurance contribution to the employer, and I'm paying corporation tax. Anything I take out, I pay tax on that as well. So there is a huge amount of tax I pay. But if you make this very punitive, that I'm not going to go anywhere because I can't take my business away, but that there are people who can go somewhere else, who can create that wealth, who can create the jobs elsewhere, they will go elsewhere. So therefore, we've got to be fair to everyone so that we want to keep those wealth creators in this country rather than going across to other European countries or to America.
and-
That is right. That is right. If I can add something.
Come in, yeah.
We have to keep the entrepreneur here, not to go any other countries. But at the same time, what we are talking here right now is like how much it has to be progressive in all the way. Like VAT. VAT, everybody has to pay 20%. Yeah, and also council tax and other fuel tax. There are quite a lot of 60-70% of tax which are on the flat rate, like a flat rate.
Yes.
Even a poor has to pay, and their income is so low. Yeah, but a higher, the higher earner, in the proportion of their earning, will come down to 15, 20% or 30%. But in terms of the poor people, it will come up to 50% sometimes. Yeah.
So what change would you like to see then? Is there a change that can come in to make this fair?
Progressive in all areas.
Right.
We should increase the threshold.
Yeah.
Probably UK is the only country where an hourly wage earner pays tax. If you work for more than 200 hour days, you have to pay tax. It's a shocking statistic that people talk about. An hourly wage earner gets about 8.5 now.
It says
7
it's
hours.
11,000, right?
200 days if he works.
Yeah.
He has to pay tax. He crosses 11,500 straight away.
7,500. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ajay, what's your thinking? You've heard all of this
Yeah.
going on. What could happen, in your opinion, to make it a fairer system for poorer people, for poorer families?
But the thing is, I would still say that a system is very fair.
You're still
as I'm
saying that?
yes, yeah.
They agree on council tax. They agree on rental, this
Yeah, no,
rates.
I'm
Two things over.
not saying that I'm agreed with whatever you said, but the important thing is that, like earlier we were talking about that what we can learn from the different countries, for example, like you said, Bulgaria, you have. But think about it. There was a study that was done that we have 189 nations, I guess, for the tax-paying nations, which say that. And the corporation tax on an average around the world is 25.5%, right? In UK, we still have 20% last year, 19%, and then we are actually reducing the tax to make the investment attractive, right? And then as far as the personal taxation is concerned, that they have to keep it at certain level, because the corporation tax is quite of a backbone of a personal taxation, because you pay the tax here, you pay to the individuals, and then they get taxed.
You brought it back to corporation tax.
Yeah.
Let's just touch on that quickly, because the present rate, like you said, about 19%. What do you think of Labour? Jeremy Corbyn wants to increase corporation tax from its present rate of 19 to 26% by 2021. Good
Correct.
thing?
Yeah, that's a good thing, because see the business groups, they have their lobbies to make the parliamentarians and the accountants, they send them into the groups to manipulate this tax system.
Yeah.
Because so the corporations pay less and less. The poor individuals like me or him, for the when it comes to individual tax, we have nobody to go and canvass our case. We have to just pay as much as the government wants us to pay. Unless we charge the corporations much more, increase the threshold so that at least the hourly wage earner does not pay tax in this country. Bring it to that level at least as a benchmark.
But isn't that then a worry? We're talking about Brexit earlier. Is that
Exactly.
That's
Then-
gonna be a problem,
then-
isn't it?
This theory that, it's a good political slogan that big companies will go away. Where will they go? Business is here, they'll come here. If the business is not here, they won't come here at all.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If you go back to 70s, we were the sick man of Europe. Most of the companies were exiting this country. There was taxation of 83% in late 70s, early 80s. 83% taxation in this country. Now, and then people they were high unemployment. There were 3 days, people were working only 3 days. The rubbish not being collected for days and weeks. The dead were not buried because our system had failed. It has changed over the years. Now from 83%, we have come down to say 19%.
Yeah.
Now, what happened now? If you look at a number of people unemployed now is at its lowest. Why? Because the people who create wealth, people who create jobs are here. Now, you're talking about individuals. Yes, you have a choice. When you vote next time, vote for the government who's going to reduce your taxes.
Simply not
This is your
matter.
voice.
I went
No,
for
it doesn't matter to
I went
anyone.
for Jeremy Corbyn for the simple reason.
Anyone, it doesn't matter. But that's your choice. As citizens of this country, we have a choice every 5 years, every 4 years, whenever it comes. Then you say, okay, I want to pay less taxes or I want to pay more taxes.
Yeah.
That's our choice. We can be like France, pay a lot more taxes, or like Venezuela. The country is, despite being rich, resourcefully rich, the country is really bankrupt.
I'm going to bring a pause here. Just tell me what the time is on your watch.
Oh,
We're bang out of
3-2.
time.
Bang out of
We're
time.
bang out of time. There was a lot more to still discuss in this, but thank you so much to all four of you, Prabhakar, Krishna, Atul, Ajay, for joining us tonight. I think we probably only touched the surface, but that is the nature of these debates. Thank you very much for your time this evening as well. I'll be back with you next Monday night for another debate. Tomorrow night's the Hindi-Urdu debate. Z Companion continues every night between 6 and 7 on ZTV. So stay with us for the rest of the week. I'll be back next Monday. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.